Hello and welcome to Rock Your Block. I am your host, Tia Young. We have a real treat for you today. Our special guest is a licensed realtor in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. She is the owner and manager of her real estate brokerage firm located in Largo, Maryland, and she is also currently doing business throughout the DMV metropolitan area. She holds a Master of Science degree in business marketing from the University of Maryland, University College. She is married to one of our media colleagues, the charming and witty James Jack. And she has two sons, DeMille, who lives in Oakhurst, California, and Aaron lives in Champaign, Illinois. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Rock Your Block, Ernestine J. Wilson, managing broker and owner of Ernestine J. Wilson Real Estate. Ernestine, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I know how busy your schedule is, and so I'm just honored to have you here today.
Well, I am honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we have a lot to talk about today. Our focus is going to be on managing a successful real estate transaction. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit more about you. As I was looking over your information, you got a lot of alphabet soup behind your name. And so I kind of wanted to have you explain what some of the accreditations that you have and how that helps you in your business. You are an accredited buyer representative. This is also known as an ABR. Right. So what is an ABR and how does that help your organization?
Well, all of those alphabets refer to the fact that I've done a lot of schooling. I refer to myself as a learning junkie. So I'm always in and out of some sort of learning situation to help me, to help my clients. Mm-hmm. And I just love being in school.
Okay, good.
So
that's
what they all mean in a sense. Uh-huh. There are different levels of education. Some of the classes are 6 months, some are 2 days, but they're all very intense and help a lot to advance our knowledge about the business and how to work with customers.
Right, and I know you graduate from the Graduate Real Estate Institute, and mm-hmm. that's the GRI. Right. And correct me if I'm not getting the right alphabet behind the organization.
It's all good.
You are a certified residential specialist, which is also known as a CRS. Right. And you have a Harvard certification in negotiation mastery. I thought that was interesting. What is that subject about?
Well, it's about just negotiating. It's a funny story about how I took that class.
I love funny stories.
It was in the middle of COVID, and I was really bored. And I registered in that class, and there were 750 people from all around the world. And so I got to interact with people from all different nationalities. Wow. And got to learn how different they are from us, but really still the same. Right. So it was a wonderful experience.
Wow, we're all human beings when you get down to it, right?
Yes. and now with buyers having to negotiate so much, mm-hmm. I find that class to have been really beneficial to help me with negotiating for my clients because we're in bidding wars all the time now.
That's true. Yeah.
So it works well.
Yeah. Well, we are going to move right on into managing a successful real estate transaction. And I thought we would start with the sellers first mm-hmm. and then go to, move to the buyers. Okay. The first question that I would ask is, what is it that scares home sellers so much about placing their home on the market? What did you say?
There are a few things that scare them about placing their homes on the market. Uh-huh. Number one is that they're concerned about safety. They're also concerned about people walking through their houses and they're not there. You can imagine what that's like. Yeah. And they're also really concerned about their jewelry and things like that. the items that are very important to them that someone could easily walk away with.
Oh, yeah.
So when we talk about safety, of course, everyone's concerned about COVID. So if you think about people coming into your house that you don't know their lifestyles, you don't know if they've been in touch with someone who has COVID or if they themselves have COVID, that's a real concern in today's market.
Right. You know, I hadn't even thought about the COVID, how much that has changed a lot of what we do and how we think and where we go. And I mean, just about every facet of your life. I mean, even down to people going to church. A lot of people haven't been to church because of COVID. You know, they've been watching it on TV on that end. Those are some good points. From a seller's perspective, what should I do to make my home appealing to sell at or above asking prices?
Well, that's a good question. The first thing that you have to do is to make your home look good and smell good.
Smell good.
Yes.
Now, are you telling me that there are some houses that are on the market for sale and that they don't smell good?
Well, I walked into some houses that have plug-ins, you know, those plug-ins.
Oh, yeah, the smell, release the fragrance.
Correct. Well, sometimes those fragrances are not so fragrant, and a lot of people are allergic to them. So what you don't want to do is to alienate people. So what I suggest is that people use natural things like I make a potpourri that's ground cloves and nutmeg and sprinkle some cinnamon over it, put it in some water, boil it a little bit, and it gives the house a really good smell. Or you can cut up lemons and put salt on them.
Salt?
And salt.
I've heard of lemons, but I never thought about salt.
Yeah, and that gives a house a good smell also.
Okay.
So there are a number of things that you can do naturally so that you don't have to use the plug-ins.
Okay. Okay.
Another thing that you have to remember is that you're in a beauty contest, your house is, that you're competing with people who have their houses on the market, and so you want yours to stand out from all the other ones. So there are just any number of things that you need to do to make your house stand out. Another thing is that for the drive-up impression that a person gets, you need for them to like the house from the outside. Otherwise, they won't even come in.
Does that include the yard too?
Especially the yard.
Really?
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
So you need to make sure that the lawn is manicured, that the bushes and shrubs are trimmed. You need to walk around the side. If there's siding, you know how sometimes there's moss, green stuff, brown stuff on the side of houses. You need to power wash that. You need to, if there's a fence, check to see if the posts are all there or if it needs painting. You need to look at the roof to make sure it's okay. The patio in the back, the deck, everything needs to be pristine. But that's just the outside.
Yeah, but so to me it sounds like you have to use maybe a lot of tact, because some people are just real finicky about their houses and they think, I mean, how do you go about telling someone that they need to deodorize their house? For lack of a better way of saying it, I mean, or that their yard is in bad shape.
It's not a matter of being tactful.
Okay.
If they want to get the most amount of money for their house, I have to tell them point blank.
Right.
Well, another way of doing it, this is a softer way of approaching it. I ask them to remember what they're looking for when they're looking at houses, because people who are selling are moving somewhere. They're either going to rent or they're going to buy another place. So they're out looking at places also.
That's true.
So what I say to them is, remember what appeals to you. What do you want to see in the place that you move to? And know that the people who are looking at your house will want the same thing. So if there's a smell in the house, I have to just point blank say, I smell something. What do you think that is? Let's find the source. Let's get rid of it. Because a smell could be a problem.
Yeah.
It could be mold,
Plumbing.
water.
That's
So, and if that exists, we need for that to be corrected before new buyers come in.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. What parameters, Ernestine, do you use to price a home competitively?
Well, we look at data that we share with the buyers, with the sellers. And that data shows what other places have sold for recently. It tells what the competition looks like. And we also have pictures of those places. And if there is a place that's on the market in that neighborhood, I physically take a look at it so that I can know firsthand how it compares to the place that we're about to price.
Do you run into sellers who, in your opinion, just think their house is worth way much more than what it is? And again, I'm thinking, how do you tactfully, or can you is that another upfront, here it is type of conversation?
No.
Because I've met people and they say, yeah, we're going to sell our house, and we think our house is worth $1.2 million, and I'm thinking to myself, okay. How do you move into that conversation?
Well, remember when we were in the thick of COVID and Dr. Fauci was always talking about data?
Yeah.
So I have data that shows the house down the street sold for $550,000. Yours has the same amenities, same size, maybe a little bit bigger yard. So we have to price that accordingly.
And that's fair.
And that might take 10 paragraphs, it might take 100 paragraphs, but I'm doing a person a disservice if I overprice the home or encourage them to overprice the home just to get the business.
Right.
Because the property is just going to sit there.
It's going to sit there. It's not
Right.
gonna, then they'll be mad. So,
It'll be a problem for everybody.
Right. That's right. Let's talk about appraisals. I can remember many years ago when I used to work with an organization of helping people to find financing for their homes. And appraisals was really a big thing. And back in those days, they were maybe like $300 or $400 a range. Can you give us what the range is of appraisals today, and to talk a little bit about what that really means and why it's so important to have a good appraisal?
Well, appraisals are important because the lender sends the appraiser out to give an opinion of the value of the property. And it's important for the appraiser to put the value of the property at the sales price. If that doesn't happen, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So, and we can go back to why it's so important to price the house right. Because the appraiser looks at the same thing that we look at. They look at the same data.
The same data.
And they use that data to help to establish value.
Okay. So it's not a matter. I've known some people that have thought that the real estate agent and the appraisal were friends, and that they're working together. Sometimes maybe they think against them. If they think their house is worth $1 million, and you're saying it's worth 500, and maybe that's what the real estate agent is saying, and they think that the two have gotten together on them. That's not true, is it?
It certainly isn't true in today's market because if I don't know if you remember, but back in 2006, 2007, when the real estate market and the financial market crashed, there were a lot of issues with people fabricating appraisals. So now, most of the time, I don't even get to meet an appraiser. The lender doesn't get to communicate with the appraiser.
Oh, okay.
Appraisers are independent companies for the most part. A lender doesn't have their own assigned appraisers anymore.
Okay.
So all of that has changed. So there's not as much interaction, not as much influence. Do I try to influence the appraiser? Let's just say I offer them information. Most of the time they won't take it. If there is a problem, sometimes they will call me and say, where did you get this value? Send me some comparables. But otherwise, I can only help them if they ask.
If they ask, right? I got that. What should sellers look at when they are reviewing offers to purchase their home?
Well, of course, price is always important.
Right, that's number.
We talked about that. Most people think that their house is worth a lot, and it may or may not be worth the amount that they think. So in addition to price, they should look at other options that are in the contract, like whether or not the buyer wants to have a home inspection.
Okay, home inspection.
And home inspections there are different types of home inspections. There's a home inspection where the buyer has the option to walk away. The buyer is purchasing as is. And they're having a home inspection. If there's a problem or if there are too many problems and they decide that they don't want to purchase the house any longer, they can just walk away. There are no issues.
Okay.
There's another type home inspection where the buyer negotiates again, because if there are issues, the buyer sends the homeowner an addendum, and that addendum states what the buyer would like for the homeowner to repair. The homeowner would rather not get that kind of condition in the contract. So there are conditions that can be placed in the contract that will make the contract less or more appealing based on the buyer's expectations of what they want the owner to do. And usually that means repairs.
Repairs, yeah. That means money.
Right, absolutely.
What challenges will buyers find or face in the competitive market as of today? I mean, there's so many different things. There's, like you said earlier, there's COVID. We've got worldwide issues going on. The economy is going up and down. I mean, what would you say to that?
Well, the first option that I think, or the first problem that buyers are faced with is that depending on where you live in the country, there are so many cash buyers. So in some areas, I think it's Bethesda, for instance, in the Metro DC area. Last year, I read a report that 40% of the people who purchased in Bethesda paid cash.
Wow.
So if you think about the price point of the houses in Bethesda, and you think about people paying cash there.
C-A-S-H?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, of course the money comes out of the bank.
Yeah, but I meant, whoa.
Right. So they're not getting loans.
Right.
So buyers are in competition with a lot of cash buyers. 25% in some areas of the country, up to 40% in other places. That's what buyers are faced with.
Right.
So that's the first thing.
Right.
Another problem that buyers might be faced with is that they have to compete with other people for the properties.
Yeah.
And that has caused some people to just withdraw from the market because I'll give you an example of what was happening like last year. One of our buyer clients made an offer on a property and there were 35 offers. So there were 35 different people who wanted to buy the same house.
Just one house. Wow.
Correct. So a lot of people were experiencing placing 10, 12 offers on a property before they were accepted as the buyers. So it's the competition.
Yeah.
It's the cash buyers and it's the competition that's really making a lot of people even just withdraw from the market. And that's why the rentals are so expensive now. It's because people have started to look for rentals and have decided not to buy, unfortunately.
So would you consider that like it's really market driven? The pricing?
The pricing of the houses?
Right. Would you call it market driven?
Absolutely. There's a lot more buyers than there are houses for them to purchase.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's a seller's market.
It's a seller's market, yeah. I am going to say this, is that I know that we're probably not going to be able to get all, because I really want to take time to get into the buyers. We're gonna do some of the buyers, but I have much more here than we have time. So I want to ask you right now, would you be willing to come back and do part 2?
You tricked me.
Would you be willing to come back and do part 2 at our next show? Because this is really important. I mean, it's really important. I've talked to people all the time that are renting, and they're paying, tons of money for renting, but they really want to buy, but they're afraid to do so because of some of the issues that you just mentioned.
Well, I say to those people that 6 million people purchased houses in the United States last year.
Yeah.
So if 6 million people can purchase a house, you can too.
Yeah, but 5 million of those had cash.
No, only 25%. Only 25%.
25% had cash. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So there are a lot of people who don't have cash.
So I think we do have enough time to get a little bit into buyers, on the buyer side. What contingency should we consider omitting from the contract in this competitive market that we just finished talking about?
If one of my sons was purchasing a property, I would say none.
Wow.
And that's because some contingencies can be written with different timelines than what is customary. So that I know how to design contingencies so that they can be accepted even when we're in competition with other people.
Right.
But I don't suggest omitting the contingencies like home inspection or appraisal as a condition of the contract, because that could present problems later on.
That's right, that could.
I have seen some houses that we walked into and the houses were just beautiful, but the buyer didn't end up purchasing it because of the home inspection. There were things that were covered up. So in my opinion, it's just not a good idea unless you're a seasoned investor.
Right.
Or if you have really deep pockets, to purchase a house without a home inspection.
Right, that's true.
And some people purchase houses and they waive the appraisal contingency. So what that means is that if you're buying a $500,000 house and the appraiser comes back with a value of $475,000, there's a difference of $25,000 that has to come from somewhere.
Right.
And the seller has looked at a net walkaway sheet showing $25,000 more than what that appraised value is giving the seller, and so they're just not very happy about giving someone extra money when they were had probably already allocated it somewhere else.
Right. Well, we are about to run out of time. I'm going to give you the last word. You got 60 seconds. Here's a question. As an owner of your own brokerage, what are some of the lessons you have learned in being in this business?
Well, so I've been in the business so long that lessons, well, I've learned that things change. You know, the business has changed so much since when I first started, we had little cards.
Yeah, I remember.
Multiple listing cards, and the cards would be delivered to the office every day, and we'd have to go through the cards and see what was on the market. There were no lock boxes, there were no computers, but now we have everything.
Yeah.
So that's changed. The whole world has changed, and just like the whole world has changed, the real estate business has evolved too.
Right, that's right.
So a lot of technology.
Right, that's right. Ernestine, I thank you so much. We are out of time now, and we will see you at our next show so we can go into part 2, and we can even add a little bit to what we have left on that one. Thank you so much again. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We do thank Ernestine J. Wilson for sharing with us today how to manage a successful real estate transaction. If you have any questions about how to contact our special guests, please see the information scrolling below. Thank you for watching Rock Your Block, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.